I remember it like it was yesterday, standing on that cliff as the world collapsed around us. My fiancé, Nathan, and my best friend, Cassandra, boarding the last vessel with intertwined fingers, whispering promises that were once meant for me. The engagement ring he'd given me 3 weeks earlier felt like ice against my skin as I watched them completely alone. They never looked back, never saw me standing there in the rain, my tears mixing with the storm. The massive wave rose behind them like death itself, and strangely, I smiled. I welcomed the end, the roaring water promising to wash away my betrayal. Then came the blinding light, searing, impossible, and I gasped awake in my bed. 5 years earlier, June 17th, 2026, the day I first met Nathan. The calendar mocked me from across my bedroom, offering a truth I couldn't deny. I had been given a second chance, 5 years before Doomsday, 5 years before the man I loved chose my best friend when salvation was limited. 5 years to prepare. 5 years to ensure that when the waves came again, I wouldn't be the one watching from shore. They think they know me, but they have no idea who I've become. This time, I'm rewriting Doomsday, and they'll never see me coming. I stared at the calendar hanging on my wall. June 17th, 2026. The day I'd meet Nathan at the charity gala downtown. In my past life, I'd spent hours getting ready, excited to attend the event with Cassandra, my best friend since college. I remembered how she'd introduced us. Sophia, meet Nathan. Nathan, this is my brilliant friend I've been telling you about. I remembered the way his eyes lit up when he shook my hand, how his smile made my heart flutter. But that was then, before I knew what would happen 5 years later when the world began to end, before I watched him choose her over me. This time, it would be different. I got out of bed and checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Cassandra. Hey, Soph, just checking if we're still on for tonight. I've got someone I want you to meet. He's perfect for you, I swear. Perfect for me. The irony almost made me laugh. I texted back, sorry, can't make it. Something came up at work. Avoiding Nathan would be step 1, but I needed more than that. I needed to prepare for what was coming. I sat down at my laptop and began researching. The first signs of the upcoming catastrophe weren't obvious to most, but I knew what to look for. Unusual weather patterns, unexplained oceanic phenomena, a series of small earthquakes that scientists would dismiss as unrelated. I started downloading scientific articles, saving data about past cataclysmic events, and creating a timeline. My phone buzzed again. Cassandra. What do you mean you can't make it? You've been talking about this event for weeks. Is everything okay? I hesitated before replying. Cassandra had been my best friend for years before she betrayed me. But in this timeline, she hadn't done anything wrong yet. Was it fair to punish her for something she hadn't done? For something she might never do if circumstances were different? No, I couldn't think like that. When survival was at stake, she'd chosen herself and the man I loved. I couldn't forget how they left me behind. Really can't make it. We'll catch up later, I texted back. Then I opened my banking app. I had savings, but nowhere near enough for what I needed to do. If I was going to survive what was coming, if I was going to be the one sailing away this time, I needed resources. I remembered something from my past life, a tech startup that exploded in value right before the disaster. Their early investors had made millions. I looked them up. They were just starting to gain traction now, perfect timing. Over the next few weeks, I liquidated every asset I had and invested it all. It was risky, but I knew it would pay off. I also started learning skills I'd need later: navigation, basic mechanical repairs, survival medicine. I exercised daily, building strength I hadn't had before. 3 months later, Cassandra showed up at my door unannounced. Okay, what's going on with you? She demanded, pushing past me into my apartment. You've been avoiding me for months. And what is all this?" She gestured at my living room walls, covered in maps, weather patterns, and technical diagrams. "Research for a project," I said vaguely. She folded her arms. "Sophia, I'm worried about you. You've changed." I almost laughed. She had no idea how much. "I'm fine, Cass. Just busy." "Too busy for your best friend? Too busy to meet the amazing guy I've been trying to set you up with? Nathan keeps asking about you, you know." I felt a sharp pang at his name. Despite everything, part of me still wanted to see him, to feel that connection again. But I knew better. "I'm seeing someone," I lied. Her eyes widened. "What? Who? Why didn't you tell me?" "It's new. I'm not ready to talk about it yet." Cassandra looked hurt, but she didn't push it. Instead, she sighed and said, "Well, when you're ready to rejoin the land of the living, let me know." After she left, I allowed myself a moment of weakness. I looked up Nathan online. There he was, handsome, successful, kind, the man I'd fallen in love with, the man who would leave me to die. I closed the browser and went back to work. As the months passed, my investments paid off exactly as I knew they would. I quietly started acquiring what I needed, specifically a boat. Not just any boat, but one designed to withstand extreme weather conditions, self-sufficient, and equipped with state-of-the-art navigation systems. I disguised it as an old fishing vessel on the outside, unassuming, not worth stealing or noticing when chaos would eventually break out. But inside, it was a marvel of modern technology. I paid extra for custom modifications based on what I remembered from the future. Reinforced hull, specialized water purification systems, solar and wind power backups, hidden storage compartments filled with supplies that would last years. I even installed a sun simulation system, knowing the endless rain that would come. My phone buzzed with a text from Cassandra. "Happy birthday! Dinner tonight? I won't take no for an answer this time." It had been nearly 8 months since I'd seen her or Nathan. Part of me missed her, the her from before the betrayal, but I couldn't risk getting close again. "Rain check? Swamped with work," I texted back. Her reply came immediately. "Sophia Montgomery, it's your 28th birthday. Whatever work you're doing can wait. 8 p.m. That new place on Riverside. Be there, or I'm coming to drag you out." I sighed. Maybe one dinner wouldn't hurt. I needed to appear normal anyway. Too much isolation would raise questions. And I was curious about how Nathan was doing, even if I planned to keep my distance. That evening, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was nice, but not too nice. I didn't want to look like I was trying to impress anyone. When I arrived at the restaurant, Cassandra waved excitedly from a table. To my relief, she was alone. "Finally!" she exclaimed, hugging me. "I was beginning to think you'd fallen off the face of the earth." "Just busy," I said, sitting down. She rolled her eyes. "Always busy. With what? And don't say work, because I called your office last week and they said you've been taking a lot of time off." I felt a flash of annoyance. She'd been checking up on me? "I've been consulting on the side," I said smoothly, "and doing some personal research." "Research on what? Doomsday prepping?" She laughed. "Because that's what your apartment looked like last time I was there." I forced a smile. "Something like that." She shook her head. "Well, whatever it is, I'm glad you took a break for your birthday." She signaled to someone behind me, and look who else came to celebrate. I turned and felt my heart stop. Nathan was walking toward our table, smiling that smile that had once meant everything to me. In his hands was a small, wrapped gift. "Happy birthday, Sophia," he said warmly. "Cassandra's told me so much about you. I feel like we already know each other." I managed a tight smile. "Thank you. You didn't have to get me anything." "It's nothing fancy," he said, placing the gift on the table. "Just a little something I thought you might like." I could feel Cassandra watching us. pleased with herself for orchestrating this meeting. I wanted to be angry, but seeing Nathan again, his kind eyes, his genuine smile, I felt a different emotion. I remembered why I'd fallen in love with him in my past life. He wasn't a bad person, not really, just someone who made a terrible choice when faced with the end of the world. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Nathan was charming, funny, interested in everything I had to say. He asked thoughtful questions about my work and seemed genuinely impressed by my knowledge of oceanic patterns when the conversation drifted that way. By the time dessert arrived, I found myself relaxing, enjoying his company despite my better judgment. When Cassandra excused herself to take a phone call, Nathan leaned forward. "You know, I've been trying to meet you for months. Cassandra talks about you all the time." "Does she?" I said, trying to sound casual. "She says you're the smartest person she knows. After tonight." I believe her. His smile was warm, his eyes sincere. "Would you have dinner with me sometime? Just the two of us?" I hesitated. This was exactly what I'd been avoiding. Getting close to Nathan again would complicate everything, but a small, treacherous part of me whispered, what if it could be different this time? "I don't think that's a good idea," I said finally. He looked surprised, then a little embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be forward." "It's not that," I said quickly. "I'm just going through some things right now. It's not a good time for me to start dating." Nathan nodded understanding. "Of course, but if you change your mind..." He slid his business card across the table. "I'd love to hear from you." When Cassandra returned, she gave me a questioning look, but I shook my head slightly. She frowned but didn't say anything until after Nathan had left. "What happened?" she demanded. "He's perfect for you. Smart, kind, successful, and clearly interested." "I'm not looking for a relationship right now," I said firmly. Cassandra sighed dramatically. "You're impossible. What are you looking for then? Because whatever it is, it's consuming you. I barely recognize you anymore, Sofa." Her words hit harder than I expected. Was I becoming someone else? Someone colder, more calculating? Maybe. But I had to be, to survive what was coming. "I'm still me," I said, just focused on different priorities right now. Back home, I finally opened Nathan's gift. It was a beautiful, leather-bound journal with my initials embossed on the cover. Inside, he'd written, "For all your research and brilliant thoughts, happy birthday, Nathan." I traced my fingers over his handwriting, feeling an ache in my chest. In another life, I'd fallen deeply in love with this man. We'd built a future together, planned a life, and then he'd left me to die. I put the journal away and went back to my preparations. The next few years flew by in a blur of activity. My investments continued to grow, giving me the resources I needed. I became an expert sailor, learning everything about my boat and how to navigate in extreme conditions. I stockpiled supplies, food, medicine, tools, everything we'd need to survive years at sea. Yes, we. Because despite my best efforts to keep my distance, Nathan had found his way back into my life. It happened gradually. We kept running into each other at industry events, through mutual friends. Each time he was kind, interested, never pushing, but always making it clear he enjoyed my company. And slowly, against my better judgment, I started to let him in. I told myself it was strategic. Keeping him close meant I could ensure he'd be with me when the time came, not with Cassandra. But the truth was more complicated. I was still drawn to him, still felt that connection. And this, Nathan, hadn't betrayed me yet. 2 years before Doomsday, we started dating officially. A year later, he proposed, just as he had in my previous life. I said yes, all while continuing my preparations in secret. Nathan knew about my boat. He thought it was an eccentric hobby, my interest in long-distance sailing and survival skills. He didn't know the truth. that I was preparing for the end of the world. As for Cassandra, our friendship had become strained. She was happy for Nathan and me on the surface, but something had changed between us. Sometimes I caught her looking at him in a way that made my blood run cold, the same look I remembered from before. Did she already have feelings for him in this timeline? Or was I projecting my fears? 6 months before Doomsday, I began moving supplies onto my disguised yacht in earnest. Nathan helped without questioning too deeply, assuming we were planning an extended sailing trip after our wedding. Cassandra, however, was more suspicious. "All this for a honeymoon?" she asked one day, watching us load boxes of medical supplies. "Are you planning to sail around the world or something?" "Something like that," I said vaguely. She frowned. "You know, you never did tell me what all that research was about years ago. The weather patterns, the maps, and now this boat." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you know that you're not saying, Sophia?" For a moment, I considered telling her the truth. Would she believe me? Would it change anything? Before I could decide, Nathan joined us, putting his arm around me. "Whatever she's planning, I trust her," he said, kissing my temple. "My brilliant fiancé always knows what she's doing." Cassandra's expression flickered just for a second, but I saw it. That look of longing, quickly masked by a smile. "You two are disgustingly cute," she said, but her voice was tight. That night, I lay awake beside Nathan, thinking. In my previous life, the engagement had lasted 8 months before the disasters began. He'd proposed with the same ring, spoken the same loving words. And yet, when the end came, he'd chosen her. Would history repeat itself? Or had I changed enough to create a different outcome? 3 months before Doomsday, the first signs appeared, exactly as I remembered. Unusual weather patterns, unexplained oceanic phenomena, a series of small earthquakes. This time, I was ready. "We need to move up the wedding," I told Nathan one morning. He looked surprised. "Why? What's the rush?" I hesitated, then decided on a partial truth. "I've been analysing some troubling weather patterns. I think a major storm system is developing. If we want to take that sailing trip after the wedding, we should go sooner rather than later." Nathan studied my face. "Is that really what's bothering you? Because you've been acting, I don't know, tense, like you're waiting for something bad to happen." "Nothing bad is going to happen," I assured him, hating the lie. Not to us, anyway. That part, at least, I meant to be true. We moved the wedding up to a small, private ceremony. Cassandra was my maid of honour, of course. She hugged me tightly at the reception, whispering, "I'm so happy for you." But her eyes didn't match her words. A month before Doomsday, I told Nathan we needed to prepare for our trip. I suggested he stay on the boat with me, getting everything ready. To my relief, he agreed easily, trusting me completely. 2 weeks before Doomsday, Cassandra showed up at the dock, looking upset. "Why aren't you answering my calls?" she demanded. "And why are you two living on this boat already? The honeymoon doesn't start for another month." "We're just getting everything ready," Nathan explained, putting his arm around me protectively. "Sophia's worried about those storms she's been tracking." Cassandra's eyes narrowed as she looked at me. "Storms? What storms? The weather service hasn't issued any major warnings." "They will," I said quietly. "Soon." Something in my voice must have convinced her, because her expression changed from suspicion to concern. "Sophia? What do you know?" I looked at Nathan, then back at her. It was time for some version of the truth. "I believe we're about to experience a major climatic event," I said carefully, "possibly catastrophic. I've been tracking the patterns for years. That's what all the research was about." Nathan stared at me, shocked. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have believed me?" I asked gently. "Without proof?" He hesitated, then squeezed my hand. "I would have trusted you. I do trust you." Cassandra was shaking her head. This is crazy. If there was something that serious coming, the authorities would know. They do know, I said. They just don't want to cause panic. But look at the signs, the unusual tides, the changing weather patterns, the seismic activity. It's all connected. So what? We just live on this boat now? Cassandra asked incredulously. No, I said, but when the time comes, we'll be ready to leave. I looked at Nathan, silently pleading with him to understand, to believe me. After a moment, he nodded. If Sophia says this is real, then it's real. I trust her. The look Cassandra gave me was complicated. Disbelief, concern, and something else. Calculation, perhaps. She was weighing whether to believe me, what it would mean if I was right. Okay, she said finally. Let's say you're right. What's your plan? We have supplies for 3 people, I said carefully. Enough to last years if necessary. 3 people, she repeated. You, Nathan, and... You, I said, watching her face. If you want to be ready when the time comes. Relief washed over her features, followed by guilt. I can help, she offered, with supplies, preparations. I nodded, though inwardly I was wary. Yes, I'd planned for her to come with us, not out of forgiveness, but because I couldn't bear the thought of leaving anyone to die as I had been left, even her. But I would be watching carefully. In the final days, chaos began to spread. Just as I remembered, the first major disaster struck. Massive flooding along coastal areas, unprecedented storm systems forming over oceans worldwide. The news tried to downplay it at first, but panic was setting in. Nathan no longer doubted me. He worked tirelessly, helping secure the last of our supplies, checking and rechecking the boat's systems. Cassandra joined us on board, bringing additional supplies as promised. The night before Doomsday, I couldn't sleep. I stood on the deck, watching the churning waters of the harbour. Tomorrow, everything would change. The world as we knew it would begin to end. I felt arms wrap around me from behind. Nathan. You knew, he said softly, not a question but a statement. Somehow you knew this was coming. I leaned back against him, saying nothing. I don't understand how, he continued, but I'm grateful. You've saved us. I turned in his arms to face him. Do you love me? I asked suddenly, needing to hear it. More than anything, he said without hesitation. You're everything to me. I searched his eyes for any sign of doubt, any hint that he might still choose Cassandra when the moment came. I saw only love and trust. Whatever happens tomorrow, I said, remember that. Remember that you chose me, and I chose you. Doomsday arrived with a dawn that never fully brightened. Dark storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and the sea was unnaturally still. The calm before the storm. Emergency broadcasts were issuing evacuation orders for coastal areas, but we were already prepared. As we made final checks on the boat, I noticed Cassandra speaking quietly with Nathan near the stern. Their heads were close together, their expressions serious. My heart rate quickened, memories of betrayal fresh in my mind despite the years that had passed. I approached them, forcing a casual smile. Everything okay? They broke apart too quickly. Nathan's smile seemed strained. Just going over the navigation charts one more time, he said. Cassandra nodded, not quite meeting my eyes. I was asking about our planned route. I've plotted it already, I said, my voice cooler than I intended. We'll head north initially, then east depending on the weather patterns. The yacht has state-of-the-art navigation systems. Right, Cassandra said. Of course, you've thought of everything. As she walked away, Nathan squeezed my hand. You okay? You seem tense. Fine, I said, watching Cassandra's retreating figure. Just ready to get moving. As predicted, The storm hit with unimaginable force just after noon. The sky turned black and rain began to fall in sheets. So thick, it was hard to see more than a few feet ahead. The wind howled and the sea churned violently. We untethered from the dock and began our journey, fighting against massive waves that threatened to capsize us. If not for the extensive modifications I'd made to the yacht, we wouldn't have stood a chance. Hour after hour, we battled through the storm. I took the helm, my years of preparation paying off as I navigated through the treacherous waters. Nathan worked the communication systems, trying to reach other vessels or land-based stations, but most channels were dead. Cassandra monitored our supplies and helped secure anything that came loose in the violent rocking. By nightfall, though it was hard to tell day from night in the perpetual darkness of the storm, we had made it to relatively safer waters. The yacht systems were functioning perfectly, and we had enough distance between us and the mainland to avoid the worst of the flooding that I knew was coming. Exhausted, I finally relinquished the helm to Nathan, who had some sailing experience of his own. "I need to rest for a few hours," I told him. "Wake me if anything changes." He kissed me gently. "You were amazing today. Get some sleep. I've got this." I hesitated. "Where's Cassandra?" "Below deck, I think. Probably resting too." I nodded and went to our cabin, but I couldn't shake the uneasiness I felt. After tossing and turning for nearly an hour, I got up and went to find Cassandra. Her cabin was empty. A cold feeling settled in my stomach as I made my way back topside. The rain had lessened slightly, allowing for better visibility. I saw them immediately, Nathan and Cassandra standing close together near the bow. Too close. I stayed in the shadows, watching as Cassandra reached up to touch Nathan's face. He didn't pull away. They were talking, but I couldn't hear their words over the storm. Then Cassandra leaned in and kissed him. For a moment, my world stopped. It was happening again, just as before. Despite everything I'd done, everything I'd changed, history was repeating itself. But then Nathan stepped back, shaking his head firmly. He said something to Cassandra, his expression serious. She tried to reach for him again, but he caught her wrist, stopping her. I moved closer, still unnoticed, until I could hear their voices. "Not going to happen, Cass," Nathan was saying. "I love Sophia. I married her. Nothing is going to change that." "But you and I," Cassandra's voice was pleading. "We've always had a connection. You know we have." Nathan shook his head. "Whatever you think was between us, it wasn't real. Not for me. Sophia is my wife, my partner. She saved our lives by preparing for this. How can you even suggest?" "Because she's hiding things," Cassandra burst out. "She knew this was coming years ago. How? Why didn't she warn everyone? And have you seen how she looks at me sometimes? Like she hates me for something I haven't done." I stepped forward then, unable to stay hidden any longer. "Because in another life, you did do something." They both turned startled. Nathan's expression was confused, but Cassandra's eyes widened with understanding. "What are you talking about?" Nathan asked. "I've lived through this before," I said quietly. "The end of the world, 5 years ago or 5 years from now, depending on how you look at it. I stood on a cliff and watched the two of you sail away together, leaving me behind to die." Nathan stared at me in disbelief. "That's not possible, isn't it?" I gestured around us at the raging storm, the flooded world. "I knew exactly when and how this would happen. How else could I have been so prepared?" Cassandra's face had gone pale. "You're saying we betrayed you in another timeline?" "Yes," I said simply. "When salvation was limited, you chose each other, not me." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of rain and waves. Nathan looked from me to Cassandra and back again, processing. "So, all this time," he said finally, "you've been preparing for this moment. Not just the disaster, but us, testing us." I nodded. I needed to know if history would repeat itself. Nathan stepped towards me, taking my hands in his. "Sophia, I don't know how what you're saying is possible, but I do know this. I would never leave you, in this life or any other. Whatever happened in that other timeline, it wasn't me, not the me I am now." I searched his eyes, looking for any sign of deception. I found none. "I believe you," I said softly. Cassandra stepped forward hesitantly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For what I might have done. Or would have done." She looked genuinely remorseful. "I won't lie. I've had feelings for Nathan, but I would never have acted on them if I'd known." "If you'd known I'd come back from the future to stop you?" I finished with a small, sad smile. She laughed nervously. "Well, when you put it that way..." Nathan put his arm around me protectively. "What happens now?" I looked out at the stormy horizon. "Now we survive. Together." I turned back to them. "But I need to know I can trust you both. No more secrets. No more hidden feelings." "No more secrets," Nathan agreed, kissing my forehead. Cassandra nodded solemnly. "I promise." In that moment, standing on the deck of my carefully prepared yacht with the two people who had once betrayed me, I felt something unexpected. Hope. Not just for survival, but for a future different from the one I'd lived before. The storm still raged around us, and the world was still ending. But this time, I wasn't watching from shore as they sailed away. This time, we were facing it together. And as the massive wave rose in the distance, the same wave that had taken them away from me in my past life, I smiled. Not in resignation this time, but in triumph. I had rewritten Doomsday after all.